This is a journey into sound. A journey which will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Yeah, what drew you to music?
First of all, with David Bowie, he was an interesting enough character to recognize all the years I had practiced music and jazz and classical and fusion and pop. I was sort of the whipped cream on the cake to his music. So if I'm playing all this kind of stuff, and I'm doing all that, he loved it because he knew how to frame it with just a simple bass drum and a bass player and guitar. So he was brilliant that way. But for myself, to answer your question, at about 7, everyone in Brooklyn had a piano in the house, and my mom played, and my dad played, and my sister played. So it's like built-in peer pressure. You don't even know it. So I started playing at 7. I liked it. The funny story is we had, in those days, this would have been 1952, we had our telephone in a fucking closet. So when I didn't practice, my mom would run into the closet making believe she would call the piano teacher to cancel the lessons.
All of a sudden, he can't do anything.
But it showed me that I did love it, so I'd run to the piano and practice. And a week later, she's running to the closet again to cancel the lessons.
Where in Brooklyn did you grow up?
I grew up on Ocean Parkway.
Oh, no shit. So right by Coney Island?
I was brought up underneath the roller coaster in the Coney Island section of Brooklyn.
Between Coney Island and Prospect Park. My high school was Lafayette. Sandy Koufax.
Wow.
Larry King went there. And a nice producer who did Janis Ian in the day and works with Adam Sandler named Brooks Arthur. He's a close friend of mine. They were all a little older than me, but it was a great school, but a lot of gangs.
Warriors, come up to play.
And, it was rough, but I was playing piano through it all. So I started playing at 7, and now it's like 160,000 fucking hours later.
Yeah.
Still doing it and playing more than ever, especially because of the pandemic. So I'm in the studio all the time, and I still love it, and it's a gift in a lot of ways. So by the time I got to David, I had a lot of, let's say, music vocabulary that I could offer him. So over a period of 40 years, playing on 60, 70 songs, 20 albums, probably 1,000 concerts that I did with him, he would find, he'd go into my head and he could find a style that I had studied and put it on a song. It could have been gospel on things like On Young Americans, or it could have been very pop and straight ahead, or it could have been really out there like Aladdin Sane, or an outside small plot of land, or I'm deranged, or, very romantic like Lady Grinning Soul, A Stranger When We Meet, or Motel. And he had this gift that whatever I had practiced, he found a way to find a song to put my shit on top of his. And, you remix some of his music, so you know the guy. And did I know who he was? I didn't have a fucking clue when he called. It's hard to explain, but I'd be playing for 20,000 people, the Spiders from Mars, and all the different bands, and I'd be hoping I was in a jazz club playing for 3 people. It was like that's how I was trained, so I didn't even appreciate it. And then after he passed, oh my God, I look back and I regret. You know what I mean? But in the first 2 years, Danny, he fired 5 bands between 1972 and 1974. I was invited to do the Ziggy Stardust tour, his first trip in America. And within, I would say, those 2 years, he fired 5 different bands. I was the only one he kept. Only, not because we were friends, which we were, but because I could change styles. So after Aladdin Sane and all the crazy shit, there was pinups and Diamond Dogs where I didn't play as weird, and then Young Americans I'm playing, or gospel things. So I didn't have a lot of judgment on styles. I didn't see barriers in music. I could just play what I heard, and as long as I felt it in my heart or my soul, the integrity would sort of carry it.
Yeah, well, you know what's interesting? When I went back and I was listening to some stuff, a song like, you know, like "Hang On to Yourself," for instance, right? I'm listening to that, and it was almost like you were like another rhythm guitar, because when you listen to the live records, because you're definitely on it.
I'm a live stuff.
Yeah, no, it's the live versions. That's my point. Is that it was like another rhythm guitar almost.
Nobody ever mentioned that to me all the years. It would have to be only fucking Danny Saber who never mentioned it.
Really? Let's talk about like with Mick Ronson and that and the Ziggy incarnation, because it went through, it evolved. It went, you know, like you said, David was the. We had this conversation. It's casting. Casting in life is everything.
He was the ultimate casting director, as you know.
With your playing in that band with the Spiders, it's the kind of thing I know. Like people, that's probably why nobody's ever asked you about it, because you almost take it for granted because it's so seamlessly doing what it needs to do. But if you took it away, I guarantee you there'd be a hole there that you know, which is kind of the ultimate compliment, I guess, because piano is sort of a very unique instrument in the context of rock and roll. You know, there's like, you know, the Johnny Johnson, Chuck Berry, like that's probably like one of the cornerstones of it. But you found a way, you would have to bring it to David, right? Like recognizing it and letting you be you.
Oh, you know, I played for over 1,000 singers. You wouldn't believe it, because I worked in the Catskill Mountains all summers from 14 to 20 some odd. So every night there were two different singers.
The Borscht Belt?
The Borscht Belt. From Mel Torme to Hines and Dad, dance teams, Jackie Mason. It's like, so I did it all. So by the time I came to David, I had already played for 800 singers. Then since David, obviously, it was Pumpkins and Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails, all that stuff. But the bottom line is, of those 1,000 singers, there's David, and then the next one I can't even begin to explain how many layers lower, not because he had a better voice or anything like that. He just had a certain magic. It's almost like he had an extra gift bestowed upon him. One of my friends had a dream and said it seemed like in the dream we have two arms, he had three, but the third one, he was trying to say it was like a spiritual arm that allowed him to be so handsome, have the greatest clothes, the greatest fashion, the greatest acting, the greatest singing, the greatest songwriting, the greatest producing, the greatest directing, to be on stage with him. And he would talk to me after the show. He knew when I was phoning it in or I was playing from my heart. I could not fool him. And he knew when he was on or just phoning it in. We would discuss this, and I would help him put the sets together, and he would ask me, and he relied on me. He said, just give me a good intro and a good ending so I get in key, play whatever the fuck you want in the middle. And nobody, even the jazz world, when I worked with Stan Getz, Freddie Hubbard, Elvin Jones, these people did not give me as much space as David. So I'm eternally grateful. And, you know, I wish he was here so I go on tour after this fucking pandemic, but he's not. So the next best thing I do is get alumni together and do concerts.
Speaking of that, when I came and saw the show I think it was the Wiltern, and the thing I was really blown away by was the feeling of being in the room. It felt like a real rock show, right? The energy in the room. It was almost like a new thing, right? As opposed to some sort of like, you know, nostalgia show. It was legit. It was a legitimate rock show. And I guess it's a testament to a few things it's a testament to his legacy and how powerful the material was. It's a testament to the band because, you know, it didn't matter. It was so great, you know, and I think part of it too is the thirst that people have these days to see something and hear something real. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much fabricated. Something that just occurred to me, or just seems very clear now, is all the musicians my age, we all looked at what we were seeing from your generation And there was an authenticity and a sincerity to it. Whether it's Mick Ronson or David Bowie or you, there was no, it was coming from such a pure place, everything you guys were putting out there, that it had a built-in sort of mystique and a mythology to it, you know, with the way it was marketed. But at the end of the day, it was still a gig, right? But you never felt that. And now I think that's part of the problem, you know, part of why there's just like the teeth has been taken out of music, you know, really all art forms to a certain degree, is because we know too much as fans now, you know what I mean? But it's also where it's coming from. You know, a big part of my mission is to try to, you know, bring some of that back with this next generation of artists I'm working with. And obviously we got to live in the time we're in. It's not about chasing the past and trying to make something that doesn't matter anymore. It's not relevant. Can't do that. But what you can do is raise the awareness of younger artists and just give them perspective on why David Bowie's David Bowie, why the Beatles were the Beatles. And with Rudy, we got into that, and it really, I understood it. You know, Kennedy getting shot was probably just as important to the impact the Beatles had on this country as anything they ever did on their own. Just the circumstance they found themselves in, because it was literally 3 months after the assassination, and there was like a psychological need for some light at the end of the tunnel, you know, and they provided it. All of that added up to the way things hit me personally, to the point where when I came back around to having the opportunity to work with not all, but a big portion of the artists that inspired me to make me want to do this in the first place, I almost saw it as like I had a duty and a responsibility to give, like, just to have that opportunity to, like, you know, the story of David hearing those remixes for the first time. Were you in the room? Because Reeves told me this story when the Little Wonder remixes got sent over. You know, I guess some remixes had been done already and they weren't very good. And so everybody was prepared to be underwhelmed. And by the end of the first one, everyone was laughing, you know, because it was so good, which was a great thing for me. And then I got a call from David. You know, it was like a dream fairy tale sort of a scenario where it's like, first I'm remixing David Bowie. And the amazing thing about that remix was I literally got the multi-track. I shut off all the instruments except his vocal, locked a click to his vocal, grabbed an acoustic guitar, and that vocal told me, I heard the whole thing finished just off his vocal. It was so rich, right? I literally played the chords to his vocal. You know, I was trying to do like my version of Space Oddity. Reeves calls it Cowboys and Indians, you know, like, and that's the end result of all those years of him and how rich what he created was, and then my sort of take on it, which it was like a religious thing almost, you know what I mean, to have that opportunity, you know. And
I mean, your job is moving forward is to pass that on to the new generation. Music goes through cycles. There will be great artists coming around again. Some are floating around. Billie Eilish is very, very talented. Her brother, a very good songwriter. There will be people doing some great stuff. When I worked with Lorde, she did Life on Mars after David Bowie died, and we did that at the Brits Award. You could feel something special there. David liked her very much. He told me Trent Reznor in 1995, he said, keep your eye on this guy. He's the real deal. And look what he's doing with film and TV. He did Watchmen, the series. I actually it opens with me playing piano in the Watchmen series, the series number 1.
wow.
And I wrote the piece. You talk about Cowboys and Indian. It was a Cowboys and Indian type piece because it was silent. It was like a silent movie happening.
Oh, right.
So that's all me. But what I'm trying to say is there are those who come about, but the society and the setup and the way things are now, it's promoting something that is missing the heart. And it's our job to keep doing it as artists and keep our eye open for those artists that you could produce or I could play piano for that have it. But it's like a needle out of a haystack, and it's frustrating. But you can't get stuck on it because it's cyclical. It goes in cycles.
Yeah.
You had Bach, and then you didn't have anything amazing until Haydn and Mozart, and then there was Beethoven, there was Chopin. But for each of those guys, there was 1,000 imitators, as you say, and people who had the chops, but they didn't have the heart. And then you have Stravinsky, and you have Bowie, and you have Michelangelo. It goes through cycles. The main thing is that you don't lose hope because you're still here. Your job is to spread it in a way that's not shoving it down somebody's throat. Because if a person is not spiritually and evolutionary wise ready for it, you don't want to work with them anyway, because they just don't have that inner spirituality.